Yeah, totally. I'm just making sure that it's going live here.
Okay.
Just gonna take a minute. All right, we are live.
Awesome.
Welcome, everybody. I wanted to introduce you to Miss Jenna. Jenna is our assistant hormone coach in the Happy Hormones program. And we have been brainstorming for the last little while what value we can bring to this group. And so, one of the things that we've been really talking about is mindset and how big of a role our mindset actually plays in healing our hormones. And we'll kind of explain why that is here in just a second. But Jenna, like I said, she's an assistant hormone coach in the Happy Hormones program, which means that she helps facilitate all of the women in that group, making sure that they're moving through that process, that they're overcoming any mindset challenges, that they are really walking in their strengths to get to where they want to go in that program. So welcome, Jenna. I know this may be the first time that people are really getting a chance to see your face and hear your voice, but we're going to be talking about mindset, and we're going to be doing kind of a mini series on it because it is, at the end of the day, what will make or break your hormone progress, whether you work with us in the Happy Hormones program or you're doing something else. So Jenna, why don't you share a little bit? You can share a little bit about yourself if you'd like to, and then yeah, if you want to jump into to some of the mindset stuff that we see, you know, at the beginning before people are working with us, and then kind of as they move through that process, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. So I'm Jenna. I am a mom of two kids. Been married 16 years, married my high school sweetheart. Grew up in a small town in Colorado and now live on a little farm in Wyoming, living the farm
Awesome.
life. And I did the Happy Hormones program myself. I think it's been 2 years now, about two
Yeah.
years ago, after just extensive specialists and naturopaths and like pretty much have done everything to help my
Totally.
hormones and landed on the Happy Hormones program and really made a lifestyle change to see such a big difference.
Right.
So I think as far as mindset goes, I'll just share a little bit about where my mindset was
Yeah.
before I started the program.
Mhm.
um kind of feeling just in this hopeless place of, oh, I can't, my body won't heal.
Mhm.
I can't because I have a full-time job and I have young kids, and I can't give the time to it, or I can't find the answers, or I can't put in the time. And I had this kind of
Right.
mindset of like, well, I'll try something else, but I probably can't get out of it what I'm hoping, because I've tried
Totally.
everything, and in this kind of hopeless place. And I think, when your circumstances seem so big, it seems like it's impossible to take care of yourself, or it seems like it's just like you can't get your head above water enough to
Right.
find the time to take care of yourself.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And so
Totally.
I think, then going through the program, you definitely challenged me in my mindsets of like, well, but what could we do differently? Or what are you focusing on? Or what can you focus on, even if it's just little? And so
Right.
I making that shift in my mind, even on a daily basis outside of my own body, but just in little circumstances like, how can I get a healthy dinner prepared for my family?
Mm-hmm.
Making a
Right.
mindset shift in something that little can make such a huge difference. Like, well, I
Exactly.
can't make chicken cordon bleu tonight because that would
Yeah.
take too long.
Right.
But
Who
I
has time for
can make
that? Yeah.
chicken in a crock pot because
Yeah.
that takes 10 minutes. So
Exactly.
focusing on what you can do, even if it's small, rather than all the things that you can't do, helps you to just make that shift of like, oh, I can do something today, because we can't change our circumstances,
Right.
whether it's a full-time career or young kids, or maybe you're taking care of a family member, or maybe you got a diagnosis that requires a lot of attention and doctor's visits, and we can't change our circumstances a lot of the
Right.
time, but we can change how we handle them and how we think about them.
Exactly. And I know, both of us have had different experiences, but similar in the sense of, like, I remember when I first, like, I was so sick after my daughter was born. She was 9 months old, and I was having debilitating insomnia. I would wake up every morning having panic attacks and vomiting and diarrhea. I lost 10 pounds in a week, and I was already underweight at that point. I was having gallbladder issues. And my doctor just kind of looked at me like, so just take some antidepressants. Like, that was her solution. And I was like, did you not hear a word I just said?
Mhm.
Like, and I know so many women experience that same thing. But really, when, I was doing all of the research and development for this program, I was thinking back to, like, what was my mindset at the time and what could I have handled doing? Because I know for me, when I finally found a practitioner that could help me, he gave me a list of 20 things that I had to change overnight, like, literally. And I would, and I'm like, when you're having heart palpitations and anxiety and insomnia, it's like 20 things. And
Yeah,
then all of a sudden you're having a panic attack over the 20 things.
right.
And so one of the things that, I was sick enough and desperate enough that I did it. But it took me 4 years, whereas, we're seeing closer to 4 months of, like, a recovery time for the majority of our clients. So within that, what I'm trying to say is, on my Monday brain, is really developing that mindset of one step at a time.
Mhm.
Because if I had had the belief system at that time that I have to do everything perfectly or else I'm not going to get better, I would have given up. And
Yeah.
so our job as we're working with women throughout this process is not just to say, hey, you need to be eating this number of vegetables, or hey, you need to make sure you're getting this many number of hours of sleep. It's actually being able to identify with them the belief systems that are keeping them from taking just that one action.
Yeah.
Because what we have seen time and time again is somebody can be doing every single one of the steps of that process, working through the phase perfectly. And I think Jenna can attest to this too. And Liz will be talking about this when she comes on in a couple weeks as well. But if we're not identifying mindset, we will be stuck.
Mhm.
And there will be a portion of our healing that is not complete
Mhm.
because we're not able to see, because we all have blind spots,
Mhm.
um, just what's kind of holding us there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like you hear the term, I'm stuck in a rut.
Mhm.
And, that actually is very, very true because your brain
It's
has
a
ruts,
literal rut. Yeah.
literal ruts, and
Yeah.
you can change the pathways that your brain takes in
Right.
just 30 days. If you just like identify where the negative thought is or the toxic thought is and you reroute it, and then
Hmm.
eventually your brain is going to start connecting the positive pathway instead of the negative pathway.
Exactly. It's hard, and it feels really hard at the beginning because it's not, it's not it's not a paved road that you already
No.
have there.
It's
It's
steep
like,
snow.
if you've ever, like, if you've ever watched Little House on the Prairie, when they're, like, first making their trek across the United States, it's like, it's a hot mess. It is
Yeah.
not, like, it's not these nice paved roads. It's like, it's super dangerous and it feels really scary. So I think one of the things that we wanted to talk about today was really, like, honing in on one of the big things that we see kind of trip clients up, which is not allowing our circumstances to be more important than our self-care, and really, how do we help people to focus on that one thing that they can do? So do you want to share, like, you can share a little bit about your own experience or what you've kind of observed, that we help women kind of navigate through that? Because I know for me, my first thing to go is myself. If these, we have these internal goals and then we have external things that come
Mhm.
to derail us, not intentionally, but that's just what happens.
Yeah.
And so if we're not super aware of that, if I'm not aware of what is the one thing I can do today to take care of myself and make sure that priority is still the same, then what's going to happen in 3 to 6 months, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so share a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, especially having somebody tell me you're allowed to take care of yourself first. It's okay. Like you should be taking care of yourself. I really love the analogy. I've heard it from so many different people, but I really love this analogy where when you're on an airplane and the flight attendants do, the pre-plane emergency like
Mhm.
procedures, they tell you if there's an emergency, you have to put your oxygen mask on before you even assist your own kids
Right.
because we're useless if you're passed out on the floor, right?
Right.
So
Exactly.
essentially, in everything that we do in our daily lives, we're kind of useless if we're not taking care of ourselves first.
Right.
So, and I think the common denominator that I see with myself and even close friends and even clients that we work through in the program is time.
Hmm.
I always say I don't have time, whether it's I'm focusing 12 hours a day on my career, or I have a full time job and young kids, or I'm a
Hmm.
full time mom and homemaker,
Right.
whatever it is, or maybe you're caring for a family member, whatever that circumstance is, especially if it's a new circumstance that's changing your
Right.
routine, we automatically go towards, I don't have time. Or you say to a friend, how are you doing? Busy, but good. Like
Hmm.
that's a very common thing, in this day and age. And I think something for myself that was like an aha moment is that, okay, we all have the same amount of hours in a day. Granted,
Hmm.
some of those should be sleeping hours, but we
Right.
all have the same amount of hours in a day, and we get to decide what we do with those hours.
Right.
Now, our circumstances might be I work a 12-hour job, I work a 12-hour
Hmm.
shift, or,
Right.
my kids require a lot of attention, or if
Right.
I have a special needs child, I need to give them more time than my other child, or whatever it might be, could
Right.
be body circumstances. We still get to choose what we do with our hours outside of those circumstances.
Right.
And so I actually last year my phone popped up on a Sunday and gave me a notification, and it said your average screen time this week was 4 hours and 30 minutes. And I was
Hmm.
like, what? I
Yeah.
have 4 hours and 30 minutes a day that I've spent on my screen. And here I am telling everyone I have no time to take
Right.
care of myself. And
Yes.
so, like, I strongly urge everyone, if you don't get that screen time report, to go look in your settings and just like
A
glance
little
at
bit shocking. You might not,
right.
you might be offended by it. That's
I
okay.
am offended by myself all the
Yeah.
time. And that one definitely offended me. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, if I have 4 hours, granted, I do work online, but there's no way
Right.
that all of that is
All of
spent
that is work.
because
Yeah.
I work on my computer too. So if I have that much time on my screen, I can find a half an hour or even 10 minutes in the morning to
Right.
breathe and have a cup of tea and, give thanks for something or write in a journal. Or
Right.
sometimes that's all the amount of time you need in a day to shift your mind to a place
Right.
of like, okay, I've got this today.
Yeah.
And, in the moment of really hard situations, like when your kids are going crazy, or you have a really high stress situation at work, or, your spouse is coming home in a bad mood, or whatever it might be,
Right.
if you take that 10 minutes for yourself in the morning to realign your mind in
Hmm.
those moments, it's a lot easier to say, okay, what can I do in this moment
Right.
that's going to be helpful, instead of reacting or saying, like, I can't do this. Does that
Right.
make sense?
Yeah, totally. And I think, when we start focusing on self-care and we start really honing in, because it becomes more and more clear as we're working with women throughout the program, like, that we can get the first couple of steps and phases done, and then eventually our own, and this is true for myself, any program I have ever done, whether it was a nutritional program or a hormone certification program, or like advancing my career or whatever, like, you are going to hit those roadblocks that of the belief system. So inevitably around halfway through the program, um, something's going to happen where your direction is going to be yanked on, like your attention, your time. And it's like in those moments, this is where we have to, like, the rubber hits the road, and
Mhm.
we have to say, I'm doing this for myself because actually too much of my time is being stolen feeling sick. Too
Mhm.
much of my time is being taken feeling moody, irritable, pissed off at my spouse for no reason, no libido, like snapping at my kids. And we have to look at that and really begin to challenge that belief system of I have no time to
Yeah.
invest in myself, because there's the time element and then there's the worth element.
Yeah.
And a lot of times those are the two that we kind of run into, which
Mhm.
is, especially if somebody's being super resistant unintentionally. Nobody isn't intentionally trying
Yeah.
to be resistant. Okay. So, like, don't hear me say that. But when there's that resistance, then we have to start digging into the worth. Because if you believe that your husband loves you and that your family loves you and that they were willing to let you invest in a process for you to get better, but
Mhm.
you don't believe you're worth feeling better, then you're going to stop at a certain point and say, I'm not going to put the time into this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, a lot of times having self-worth is, associated with being arrogant,
Yeah.
which is such a lie. Like,
Right.
to feel that you are worth putting time into is a gift. It's
Right.
not an arrogance thing. It's like you working on yourself is not only a gift to yourself, but it's a gift to your family. It's a gift to those
Right.
around you. It's a gift to the people you work with, because ultimately this is the one body you get. This is
Yep.
the one mind you get. You get the one. And if you're not taking care of it, and I think too, the word self-care, it's two words, but the
Right.
phrase
It's so
self-care,
cliche, and it's
it's
like, well,
really
at this
cliche.
point, yeah.
Yes. And you think like, oh, self-care means I need a spa day, or self-care means
So,
I need to go shopping.
yeah.
Actually, all it means is like, I am recognizing that I am worth
Right.
it, and I need to take care of myself so that I can be the best version of me. And
Right.
it can be as little as, today I'm going to start with drinking a cup of tea that I love because that feels kind to me,
Mm-hmm.
or going to my favorite coffee shop and
Right.
grabbing a coffee. Like, something that little is considered self-care. And then it
Right.
snowballs into the bigger things of like, okay, well, now I need to work on my mindset, and now I need to work on my physical body. And now
Right.
I need to, invest bigger in myself to actually get things on track and balance myself out.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And then there comes a point now where it's like that. I remember when I was really sick, and I was not able to work at that time because obviously I can't work a 13-hour shift on a crazy nursing unit when I'm having panic attacks and vomiting. Like, that doesn't
Right.
work, right? And I'd lost my milk supply and couldn't feed my baby. And so it was awful. And like, I know so many of the women that I talked to, same experience, very similar experience. But my husband was like, I don't care how much it costs. I don't care if we have to go in debt. Like, you are sick and this is important. Like,
Yes.
you are important. I didn't believe I was important enough. I had a lot of self-worth issues at the time.
Mhm.
And but it was like I was able to pull on his belief system for
Mhm.
me and say, okay, I don't believe that yet, but I believe that you do.
Yes.
So I'm going to take that for myself right now, which is a lot of times I ask women to borrow my courage, like, borrow it,
Mhm.
steal it. I don't care. You can come into my house and hijack it. Like, just take it for yourself
Yeah.
for a month and let's see how far we can get you, but eventually it transferred over to me believing that I was worth it. And then it becomes a part of who you are when
Mhm.
you see that I can't play the powerful role of a mom and a wife
Mhm.
and whatever else God has called me to unless I am walking in that abundant wellness, right?
Right.
Where that is that abundant life that God has called us to. If that's part of your belief system, that's part of my belief system. It doesn't have to be part of yours, but And then now it's like there's this hunger or this craving for, once I've achieved that thing, now there's something else. Okay, like what else do we need to overcome here?
Yeah.
And we see that in women all the time, where it's like now they get to the end of that 12 weeks and they're like, now I have this other goal of like, now I feel like we could totally get pregnant again, or
Mhm.
I'm, now I have that self-worth to where I believe I can lose weight now.
Mhm.
Or your brain just automatically does that as you're kind of pruning the tree, for
Yeah.
lack of a better metaphor. So,
Yeah.
but if we don't acknowledge the reasons why we don't believe we're worth investing in, or whether it's time or money or both, then it's like we have to do that work. Otherwise, there is no magic pill to resolving your hormones and you will always be stuck. So,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think too, with going back to the belief system thing,
Yep.
what you believe about yourself is ultimately how you're going to function towards everyone around you. And so,
Right.
especially in raising kids, I've been challenged myself in, okay, well, I'm teaching them to value themselves and to have
Right.
confidence and to, recognize toxic thoughts. But here I am not feeling that I have great self-worth and not being
Right.
confident in who I am and having these negative toxic thoughts, and but how can I teach them the opposite of how my mind is actually believing, even though I want them to believe differently. And so that was a
Totally.
huge motivation for me in my health journey as well, was my mindset, because I knew that that was a big part of what was holding me back.
Yeah. And inevitably, everybody gets to that point at some point, like in the process, either at the very beginning or the middle or the end. And how willing you are to say, like, I'm willing to take some perspective on this, or I'm willing to be challenged on this, or I'm willing to see that it's not that I don't have time. It's actually that I'm not willing to ask for help from family members, or which was a huge one for me, like big, big one.
Yep.
Um, cause yeah, lots of reasons for that, but you know what I'm saying? Like those, or I'm not willing to confront the fact that my husband doesn't let me go to bed early
Mhm.
because there's already some underpinnings in that relationship, not my own husband. I'm just saying,
Yep.
that sometimes comes up where it's like, it's not just there's something else there, because it's not just about you feeling like you can't ask him. It's what is going to happen if you ask him and he
Right.
responds negatively. And if you don't believe you can hold the boundary, then that's
Right.
going to create some fear. So let's
Yes.
work on that. Let's talk
Mhm.
about, what's really going on in your heart and your mind that's so much bigger than just, I can't go to sleep because
Yeah.
my husband stays up until 3 a.m. playing video games. Like
Right.
that's a different thing. So,
Yes. Yeah. And, the other thing too is we are body, mind, and spirit, right?
yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
so all three of those things are a huge part of our healing journey. So,
Yep.
yes, there are practical things that we have to apply for our
Yep.
bodies to be healthy. But if we're also not working on our mind, which is such a huge part of ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
then we're missing like a huge part of the whole body healing journey.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I think, and the spiritual side of it is just even spending that quiet time, whatever your belief system is, to just breathe and to just have that
Mm-hmm.
time to ground yourself
Yep.
and reset. Because we, in our society today, we don't do that.
No.
We don't do that enough. We are high stress all the time. The moment our eyes are awake, it's another day, instead
Mm-hmm.
of awesome, I get another day here.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Totally. And I feel like we could talk about, self-care, and it's kind of now where I feel like most people hear that and they're like, ugh, they hate the phrase, which I get it because
Yeah,
I kind of feel the same way. It's
I
like
do too.
overused. However, however, it's the most like overused but misunderstood term. in
Yes.
taking care of ourselves. So whatever you want to call it, I don't care. I'm trying to think of a different word because I also feel that like burnout from the term. But really, it's that, we want to just kind of open up the discussion on how mindset sets you up for healing or
Mhm.
takes you away from it. And we're going to be talking about, over the next couple of weeks, different mindsets or belief patterns that we see really help our clients to excel throughout the process, and what types of belief systems kind of keep them stuck. Because if we can avoid those or work on them or just begin to chew on that a little bit, then that's one step forward in the process for sure.
Yeah, that's so great.
Awesome.
So
Well, do you have
good.
any parting thoughts for the ladies who are watching today? I know that we could probably talk about this forever,
I
but
know. We
um,
really could.
for
Um,
today,
I
for today at least.
yeah. I guess the last thing I would say is just, uh, when you're at the end of your rope, there's always there's always some next step that you can take. And
Hmm.
so when I found this program, I was at the end of my rope. I had been through multiple surgeries. I had been to specialists and naturopathic doctors and blood analysis, and I've been on every supplement. And I just thought, there's no other step I can take. I've done it all. I've
Hmm.
done it all.
Right.
But there is always another step that you can take. And if you're feeling that way, just know that we are here and we would love to take you on a hormone healing journey
Yep.
and a mindset healing journey.
Right. Absolutely. That's really good. And yeah, and it's funny because at the end of the program, I always think like in the forms that they fill out, like when it say, when we talk about like what are your biggest breakthroughs, that it's going to be like, oh, I don't have painful periods anymore, which is, I mean, that's huge.
Yes.
But but the mindset stuff is usually what women are saying at the end of that is it's not just that I am like my periods aren't painful anymore. I actually believe in myself. Like
Mhm.
I believe in my worth as a wife and a mom, and that allows me, that's allowed me to set boundaries. It's allowed me to prioritize the 5 minutes alone to drink my smoothie in the morning, or like
Mhm.
whatever small step that is. And so
Yeah.
it always amazes me, at the end when we get to see that the wins are so much bigger than just not having mood swings or not having irritability,
Yes,
because it is so much bigger than that, because we
it
do
is.
like we unfold a lot of the mindset work within that. So thank
Mhm.
you so much for sharing your perspective and your experience. I know that a lot of women are going to relate to this in a lot of ways, and like Jenna said, if you are curious, you're curious about the Happy Hormones program, you're curious because you feel stuck and you're ready to not feel stuck, and you're not sure where to start, please feel free to shoot me a message.
Mhm.
Um, and we will either schedule a breakthrough call with you, or we'll just kind of chat through what some of your next steps might be to developing that mindset. So thank you, Jenna, for taking the time out of your day to be
Yeah,
here today,
absolutely. Thanks for
sharing your
having me.
experience and your expertise. I know I can't wait for them to hear more from you in the next couple of weeks.
Yay.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
of course. Have a great day, ladies. And if you're watching this and you've got questions for either Jenna or myself, you can tag either one of us. I know that we would both be happy to continue this conversation. So have a great Monday, everybody.